I never knew I had a broken arm until a millionaire came to my rescue. The day it all began was like any other. Gray skies wept quietly above. Droplets on my window matched the tears I had wept the night before. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I felt fine, maybe a bit sore from work, but nothing too serious. Until I stumbled out of my cramped apartment, ready to face a world filled with judgmental eyes and exhausted strangers. My spirit dampened. I could hardly lift my head. I had bills stacked high on my kitchen table, and my mom's voice echoed in my mind, reminding me of my worth. "You're not broken, just been a little," she would say, her voice like honey easing the pain. I was too lost in my thoughts to notice how my left arm felt stiff and strange. The world around me was loud, the honking cars, chatter from passing strangers, the sirens shrieking in the distance. Everything felt heavy, like a lead weight on my chest. The moment I stepped onto the street, it hit me. A rush of cold air clawed at my cheeks, waking me from my haze. Then, I felt it, a sharp sting shot through my arm as I swung it. It was unsettling. I ignored the discomfort, convincing myself it was nothing. Wooden benches welcomed me in the park like old friends. I watched the leaves flutter, a contrast to my fragile state. But as I reached for my phone, it slipped from my fingers. Time moved slow. My heart raced while I bent down, awkwardly clutching my arm. A sudden jolt of pain radiated through me, and I gasped. That's when he appeared. A tall figure, impeccably dressed, emerged from the shadows. He moved with purpose, eyes sharp and piercing. I knew he wasn't just any passerby. He was a millionaire, a figure of intrigue and mystery. His presence commanded the space. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice smooth yet urgent, like silk sliding over gravel. I could barely respond. My pulse thundered in my ears, a cacophony drowning out his words. I wanted to explain, to tell him I was fine, but a lump formed in my throat. Suddenly, a crowd gathered, whispering amongst themselves. Their stares were heavy and judgmental, making me shrink. "This girl needs help," he said, his eyes on me and softening slightly. I felt warmth in his gaze, an odd comfort amidst the tumult. The crowd seemed to dissolve as if he possessed a magical power to part them like waves. A small voice in my head whispered, "What if you are broken? What if it's worse than you thought?" Before I could gather my thoughts, he gently wrapped his hand around my forearm. It felt electric. I could see concern etched on his face as he examined me, his touch firm but gentle. "You're not all right," he said, and just like that, everything shattered around me. The reality struck, slicing through the fog. I didn't feel the urgency of pain, but there was more beneath the surface. What had I done to deserve such a curious twist of fate? Everything spiraled in an instant, a billion questions flooding my mind. Who was he? What did he want? And why did my arm feel like a ticking time bomb? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sterile scent of antiseptics filled the air in the hospital, mingling with the sounds of machines beeping softly. Lying on the gurney, my heart raced as the doctor explained the fractures in my arm. In total, no doubt a consequence of my stubbornness to ignore the pain. Every word he uttered felt like a weight, adding to the heaviness in my chest. "It will require at least 6 weeks to heal properly," he said, looking at me with concern. But all I could concentrate on were the crumbling papers demanding my attention outside these 4 walls, deadlines that seemed insurmountable. The millionaire Derek, as he introduced himself, had stayed by my side through the examination. He watched quietly as they wrapped my arm in a bright splint, exuding a calmness that only heightened my inner turmoil. Was this kindness genuine, or just the fleeting empathy of a man who had never felt the weight of real struggle? Once the doctor left the room, Derek turned to me, eyes softening. "You should have come in sooner. Ignoring pain can lead to more trouble than you realize." I bit my lip, a wave of humiliation washing over me. "Yeah, well, I didn't think it was that bad. There's strength in being vulnerable," he countered, surprising me with his insight. You don't always have to carry everything on your own. I wondered briefly if he knew what it felt like to carry the entire world on your shoulders, to be flattened by life's burdens. Thank you for helping me, I murmured, my voice barely rising above the hum of the overhead lights. He regarded me with an intensity one wasn't prepared to handle, as if he could see right through my carefully constructed walls. I didn't do it for thanks. I couldn't just walk away. The hospital room felt strangely intimate in that moment, with just us two amidst the sterile chaos. Yet, I found myself drowning in uncertainty again, hovering on the edge of panic about how this accident would affect my life. I couldn't afford time off work. Lost wages would mean more bills, more pressures. The fears brewed inside me like a tempest, threatening to boil over. Derek must have noticed my tension, for he placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. It was strange how that small gesture felt both unfamiliar and comforting. Can I help you? He asked, as if the question was an offering to help lighten my load. No, I don't think there's anything you could do, I replied sharply, defensively. He blinked, clearly taken aback. You have no idea what I could do. With a huff, I whispered, you mean throw money at my problems? It doesn't work that way. He leaned closer, his eyes searching mine. Money isn't always a solution, but sometimes it can help clear a path to find one. Let me in, and I promise you'll try not to overbear. A flicker of something, maybe hope, sparked within me. No one had been interested in helping me before now, but as quickly as it ignited, fear snuffed it out. My self-reliance had been my shield for too long, and if I let him in, what would that mean for me? Would I still be the same person if I accepted help? An uncomfortable silence filled the space, but before I could reply, a nurse poked her head in. You need to fill out some paperwork for your insurance. The reality of my situation crashed back in. I nodded absently, my mind racing with numbers and financial strains. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to sign the papers, and with a heavy heart, watched as Derek slipped out to make a phone call. A moment of solitude enveloped me, allowing my thoughts to spiral without interruption. It was impossible to ignore the fear of facing another mountain climb alone, only to fall short once again. When Derek returned, a hint of anxiety flickered on his face. I put in a good word for you at your work, he said. They'll allow you to take the time you need without any penalty. I stared at him, my heart sinking. What right do you have to interfere in my life? This isn't some game. Derek, he faltered, the edge of disappointment tracing his features. I was only trying to help. Why frustration boiled over. Help? Or control? I didn't ask for this. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me, least of all you. You don't know me. His eyes glistened with unspoken hurt, but he steadied himself. I know the struggle to survive. That's why I can't just stand by and watch. You might not want assistance now, but one day, maybe sooner than you think, I'll realize it's okay to lean on someone. His honesty hung between us, a raw thread pulling tighter. The words pierced deeper than I intended, awakening fears I had buried. Would I ever be able to admit I needed anyone? The tension in the room became almost unbearable, throbbing like my wounded arm. Just as I was about to respond, an alert blared from my phone. The stress of work and responsibilities resided there, too. Derek hesitated before checking the message that had come through, his brow furrowing sharply. Something's not right, he murmured, his voice trailing off into a grave silence. The past always seems to haunt me at the worst moments, I joked weakly, though a dark worry slithered into my heart. Derek's gaze shifted back to me, filled with a strange mix of determination and dread. We need to talk in private. It concerns your mom. My blood ran cold. I barely pushed thoughts of her to the back of my mind, choosing to focus on myself first. I couldn't bear any more weight tonight. What do you mean? Is she okay? He hesitated, the weight of his answer pressing against my heart like a vice. But no release was offered. I think you need to prepare for some news. As fear coursed through me like a current, the truth remained unreachable, leaving me dangling on an emotional precipice. Would this revelation push me further into despair, or was it the bolt of clarity I needed? The answer hung uncomfortably in the air, a bitter taste of uncertainty. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously above, casting a harsh glow that only emphasized the weight of Derek's words. My mind raced with indecipherable thoughts, spinning between the unreal and the unbearable. Prepare for some news? The phrase echoed ominously like a dark melody. What do you mean? I repeated, my voice a strained whisper. The tension in the air thickened, as if the room itself was aware of the blow waiting to fall. My heart raced, and I could feel the panic rising up like bile. The mere thought of my mother's suffering made my stomach sink deeper into a chasm of despair. Derek's expression transformed, hardened by concern as he searched for the right words. I don't want to scare you, but something has happened. I think he paused, inhaling deeply. I think she might be in the hospital. Each word was a blade, carving away at the fragile veneer of control I had tried to maintain. In the hospital? What for? An emergency, he stated, his voice a steady anchor in a storm of newfound chaos. They don't have many details yet, but it'll drive you there. I shook my head violently, unable to absorb what he was saying. No, I can't. I can't do this. I'm supposed to be the strong one. She needs me to be strong. My protests fell heavy in the air. Memories surged through my dulcet afternoons spent sewing together, the gentle melodies of her laughter, moments that felt like solace amidst my struggles. And now, would I fail her again? Derek stepped closer, his thumb brushing against my arm, sending jolts of warmth that contrasted sharply with ice forming in my veins. You can be strong and still be scared. Let me help you. The gentleness in his eyes frightened me, but beneath my fear, an unexpected desire for connection lingered like a whispered promise, and oh, I bit back, pulling away. This isn't fair. Why do you care about my life? You don't even know me. I care because I see you, he replied softly, his voice layered with unyielding sincerity. I see the weight you carry every single day. Everyone deserves support when they're hurting. The truth in his words hung suspended between us. I wanted to reject them, to push him away, to wallow in my isolation, but something inside me cracked just a little, opening like a fragile bloom in spring. Maybe it was the siren call of despair, or perhaps the hope buried beneath hurt. But the idea of letting him in was both terrifying and tantalizing. But what choice did I have? The prospect of facing my mother's condition alone seemed unbearable. The minutes only dragged on, but they felt like a lifetime as I weighed my options. Then, finally, the stubbornness that had held me captive began to dissolve like sugar in water. Okay, I relented, my voice barely audible. I'll go. He nodded, as if relieved by my decision. Together, we navigated the maze of the hospital corridors, Derek's presence grounding me as I fought to keep the panic at bay. Each step reverberated through my bones like echoes of an uncertain future. As we approached the waiting room, the familiar scent of antiseptics wrapped around us, conjuring memories from my own visit just hours ago. My stomach twisted as I caught a glimpse of anxious figures standing in clusters, faces shadowed by worry. Over there, Derek said softly, gesturing toward a small group huddled around a frail woman in a hospital gown. My heart lurched painfully at the sight of her, and I found myself frozen in place, an unwilling spectator of my own life. Mom, I breathed, my legs finally moving on their own accord. Each stride felt like an eternity, but finally, I reached her. She looked older, frilier. The usual light in her eyes dimmed as the realization of her illness washed over me. But when she caught sight of me, her eyes sparkled momentarily. "Sweetheart, you're okay," she exclaimed, though her voice wavered. I bent down, tears spilling unbidden as I touched her cheek, the warmth between us echoing with familiarity. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know I should have been here." "None of that matters now," she reassured softly, her fingers brushing against my splint. "You're here now, and that's what counts." But the tender moment was punctuated by the weight of my reality. How far I had let my life slip through my fingers. If only I had paid attention to the signs. The pain that now echoed through my arm seemed insignificant compared to the weight of my mother's fragility. As we embraced, surrounded by medical professionals whispering worries about her condition, I felt a slight jolt in my chest, a reminder of the secrets that often lurked beneath the surface. But the warm moment of reunion was harshly interrupted when a doctor approached me, his expression grave at MS. "Parker," he began, "we need to talk." Reality slammed against me as I straightened, panic clawing its way back. "What is it? Is she?" Derek positioned himself at my side, a steadying force amidst the storm. But just then, my phone buzzed fiercely in my pocket, pulling my attention away for a moment. Ignoring it, I steadied myself for the doctor's words. Suffice it to say, There are complications we weren't expecting as dread began to settle in the pit of my stomach. The vibrancy of my phone continued to buzz incessantly. I couldn't focus. I couldn't breathe. What was happening? Derek handed me my phone, and the screen lit up. A name I had not seen in years flickered in bold letters. My heart dropped. No, I whispered as the world around me grew dim. Who is it? Derek asked, his brow furrowing with concern, but I couldn't reply. I was already engulfed by the weight of a revelation that could change everything on this harrowing night. The fluorescent lights seemed to pulse like a heartbeat as I stared at the phone screen, the name blurring in and out of focus. The air became heavy with anticipation, filled with echoes of an unwelcome history that I had tried so hard to bury. One name, one single word, and my world was tilted on its axis. Who is it? Derek pressed again, his tone gentle yet firm, as if he were pulling me from the abyss I was slipping into. I felt his supportive presence like a tether to reality, but it hardly healed the gaping wound in my chest. Lucas, I whispered, the name barely escaping my lips. It held so many memories, dark shadows that danced across my past and threatened to drag me back down. I'm sorry, Derek started, but I ground my teeth and silenced him with a glance. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to confront the specter of my past while my mother lay in a hospital bed, fragile and fighting. But Lucas was relentless and now knocking at the door of my life once more. The doctor's presence wavered in my peripheral vision, but everything faded as I tapped the screen. I had to know. What did he want? Hello, Emily. Lucas' voice crackled over the line, rich and familiar, yet icy in its implications. I heard about your mother. I'm sorry, why are you calling me? I replied, my voice sharper than intended, betraying the swell of emotions roiling beneath the surface. You have no right to reach out. Not now that I know this isn't the right time, but I want to help. We need to talk about things. Things. The way he said it left a bitter aftertaste in my mouth, full of unspoken words that clamored to be released, but felt too burdensome to untangle. There's nothing to talk about, Lucas. We're not Emily. I can make things easier for you. I can help your mother, he said, each word slicing through the tension like a knife. I have the resources. My heart twisted painfully, a cruel contradiction tugging at me. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of knowing how desperate I felt, how much I wanted to refuse but knew I couldn't afford to. You don't understand anything about us, about what she needs, I faltered, uncertainty flooding in, but the thought of my mother suffering was a much more potent motivation. That I can help, he repeated earnestly, each word resonating as if it were laced with urgency. Please, just let me come to see you. Why would you want to? Because I care, he replied, but this time there was a tinge of something deeper, something genuine. I realized I made a mistake when I left. Tears pooled in my eyes. I blinked them away, my mind torn. I had spent years building walls to guard against the hurt he once caused me. Yet here he was, breathing life into an old wound. I felt heat flooding my cheeks, an unwelcome mix of old love and anger as I struggled against the tidal wave of emotion pushing me backward into the past. That I looked up at Derek, who was watching me closely, a silent observer caught in the crossfire of my internal conflict. I could tell he was piecing the fragments of my turmoil together, his concern growing deeper. Emily, Lucas implored, drawing me back. Let's not turn away from each other when the stakes are so high. I want to help your mother because it's the least I can do after everything. You mean after you vanished when I needed you the most? I snapped, the bitterness pouring out unchecked. After everything you said he was a fool, he interrupted, desperation creeping into his voice. I never should have left. I regretted it. But this isn't the time for blame. This is about your mother. At that moment, the doctor spoke up, pulling me back to the reality of life or death. Emily, if you're ready, we can discuss her condition. I gripped the phone tightly, the tension in my hand echoing deep within my heart. The two worlds collided, me mother's precarious health and the sudden, unwelcome intrusion of Lucas. I felt torn apart, threads of loyalty straining and fraying as I struggled to keep everything together. That I need to go, I said to Lucas, needing to escape the swell of turmoil. I can't talk to you right now, wait. Emily, please. I hung up, the finality of the disconnection crashing over me like a wave, drowning out his pleas. Emily? Derek asked softly, his gaze searching and steady. I faltered, my hand trembling. I don't know what to do. I just wanted to focus on my mom. And now all you have to do is take it one step at a time, he offered gently, his voice reassuring. That's enough for now. But even as he spoke, my heart constricted, a reminder of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I inhaled shakily, yearning for clear skies, but knowing full well that storms never just passed. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, another distraction. I glanced down, heart racing anew. A text lit up the screen. I will be there. You can't hide from me forever. L. And just like that, the fragile thread of hope I had been clinging to unraveled, leaving me staring into the depths of uncertainty, my world crashing down yet again. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air as I strained to focus on the doctor's words. I barely heard his explanations about my mother's condition. The weight of Lucas' message loomed larger, casting a shadow over everything else. I wanted to drown it out, to erase that text from my memory, but there it was, a relentless reminder of the past creeping back into my life when I felt most vulnerable. Emily? Derek's voice cut through the fog. He was still there, his eyes reflecting more than just concern. They held a familiarity I wasn't sure I deserved anymore, that I turned away, blinking rapidly as I fought off the panic rising in my chest. I need a moment, I murmured, escaping towards the window. Outside, the chaotic life of the city continued as if my world wasn't crumbling around me. The sun teased under the thick clouds, momentarily illuminating the drab gray sidewalks. Emily, you can't shut everyone out. Not now. Derek's voice was firm yet cautious, like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. I still wouldn't meet his gaze, the guilt of my turmoil too heavy to share. I don't want to talk about it, I whispered, biting back the emotions clawing at my throat. Then talk about something else. Your mother? He stepped closer, his warmth radiating like a shield against the cold uncertainty clutching at my heart. That I finally turned to face him, the sadness in my eyes raw. They're saying she might not make it through the night. The words dragged out, heavy and thick, as if they were choking me from the inside. Derek's reaction was immediate. He moved instinctively to my side, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. I'm here with you. You don't have to face this alone. His gesture offered a flicker of hope, but then the realization of Lucas' looming presence crashed down again. What if he's right? I questioned, dismissing Derek's reassurance. What if he can help her help? Derek echoed incredulously. Emily, he's the reason you've been unraveling for years. Are you really considering letting him back into your life, especially now? Because I don't have another choice. The words burst from me, sharper than I intended. I felt the sting of their impact on both of us, the urge to pull away battling against the desperate need for support. Derek recoiled slightly, but then his expression softened. I know you're scared, but what if this is just more of his manipulation? Think about it. Think about what? If I don't call him, my mother could suffer, or he could make things worse. Trust me, Emily, some things should stay buried. The silence that followed felt like an abyss, each of us grappling with our own thoughts. The space coiled with tension and unspoken fears. I wanted to scream that I felt chained between two worlds, one where I cherished the love of Derek, who had been there during the darkest days, and the other, where haunted memories of Lucas whispered promises of what could be. But then, as if the universe had a cruel sense of timing, my phone rang again. This time, I knew better than to let it ring out. Please don't pick it up, Derek implored, his eyes earnest, pleading. I hesitated, every ounce of me struggling against the urgency that pulled at my heart. Finally, I swiped to answer, my pulse racing in anticipation of the storm that would surely follow. Emily, Lucas' voice was smooth, yet I could hear the underlying tension. I'm outside the hospital. Panic gripped me tight, each word igniting a fresh wave of confusion and dread. How did you even? Does it matter? Listen, I know I don't have the right to barge in like this, but I need you to understand. I can help. No, I can't. I won't let you. My protest was instinctive, my heart pounding against the pit in my stomach. Please, just come downstairs. Let's talk. I won't, I interjected, my voice firm. Stay away from us. But doubt flared as silence filled the line. It felt essential for Lucas to know not only how I felt, but what was at stake. I was fighting for my mother, a battle that made everything else fade into the background. You disappeared when I needed you, Lucas. I tried to move on. Emily, I get that. But people make Mistakes. Let's not suffer for them. Derek's reassuring pressure on my arm reminded me of the present, even as Lucas' voice echoed in my ear like a haunting specter. Did I dare to entertain the notion that he might really want to help? Or was this his final attempt at manipulation? Get away from here, I hissed, urgency flooding my voice. I was done with his promises wrapped in gold. I can't do that, he replied, the resolve in his voice both soothing and infuriating. I know things you don't. I know about your mother's treatment, about options you are not aware of. Just give me a chance. My heart sank. My head throbbed with fear and possible hope, clashing violently. There I was, bargaining with a ghost of my past, while my mother lay in a hospital, her future hanging by a thread. Emily, please. Lucas' plea was genuine, piercing through my defenses. I clutched the phone tightly, torn apart by the choices that lay before me. If you're really going to help, I will be there shortly. But you need to trust me, he pressed. As the call ended, a shiver washed over me. I realized this was only the beginning of a journey I wasn't prepared for, a new sea of emotions and choices swirling around me. With Derek beside me and uncertainty knotting my stomach, I found myself staring once again into the chaotic unknown. Are you okay? Derek's voice was firm yet gentle, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. Lucas, he's here, I whispered, my heart racing as my mind spun with the ramifications. Derek's eyes widened, the concern deepening as he searched my face. But we can't let Hima's sudden commotion near the entrance of the hospital interrupted us, pulling our attention away from what lay ahead. My breath caught as I witnessed a familiar silhouette striding through the doorway, determination etched across his features, and a suitcase swinging at his side like a pendulum of hope and dread. Emily, Lucas called, and with that, the cliffhanger of my heart began to unravel me. Choice had just become more complicated than I could have ever imagined. The brightness of the hall fluorescent lights felt harsh as I squinted towards Lucas, just as he stepped into the sterile embrace of the hospital. His presence filled the space like a storm cloud, heavy, foreboding, yet impossible to ignore. Derek's grip on my arm tightened. Emily, we need to get out of here, he urged, his voice low and urgent, but the ground beneath my feet seemed to solidify into concrete, paralyzing me in uncertainty. My mind raced with a million questions, fears, and unexpectedly aching glimmers of hope. What are you doing here? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper, as if raising it might shatter the fragile atmosphere that surrounded us. That I came to help, he replied, so self-assured, yet his words brushed against an old wound. Look, I know this isn't the ideal moment, but your mother, don't you dare speak about my mother, I interrupted vehemently, anger clawing up my throat. I felt Derek tense beside me, emanating a protective energy that reminded me I wasn't entirely alone, even amidst this tempest of emotions. You left everything behind. You vanished, and now you think you can just waltz back in and act like you care? I was wrong, Emily. His voice dropped, low and intense, a crack in the facade. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was doing what was best by staying away. I see now that I only made things worse. Beneath the anger, fear bubbled up inside me, threatening to burst free. Lucas may have been a ghost from my past, but he wielded information like a weapon. My hands trembled with indecision as I caught a glimpse of Derek watching me, his eyes betraying concern. Lucas shifted closer, but still stood in a delicate balance. The vulnerability of our past collided with the gravity of our present. I heard about the hospital, he continued softly. I know options you haven't considered. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Just give me a chance to help you understand what we can do. I wanted to push him away, to tell him I didn't need him pretending to be the hero, but a flicker of desperation echoed through me. My mother's condition sank to the depths of my subconscious, where despair nested amidst the chaos. What do you know? I challenged, struggling to guard my heart while hanging by a thread. Lucas' gaze shifted, revealing the shadows cast by his own decisions. She might respond to an experimental treatment, but it's tough to get without the right connections. It's risky, and not something they offer in every facility. Knowing it was a delicate gamble was one thing. Now it felt like my soul was being weighed on the scale of possibility and sacrifice. And you have those connections? I couldn't quite contain the incredulity lacing my voice. That I do. He moved forward, pressing his urgency closer to me. But I can't help if you keep pushing me aside. I need to be in the loop, he said, his eyes desperately seeking mine. Derek cleared his throat, breaking the tension that tightened like a noose. Emily, you can't trust him. What do you really know about the connections he claims to have? Let me speak to her, doctor, Lucas retorted, glancing at Derek with a strong disdain. I'm not here to get in your way. No. You could just be lying, Derek countered, stepping protectively in front of me, shielding me from Lucas' intensity. What if he tells you to make decisions that could backfire? We don't know what he's really after. My heart raced between both worlds, the past I couldn't shake and the uncertain road ahead. I needed answers, yes, but at what cost? Lucas' presence felt both necessary and devastating. I felt my stomach clench in knots, and the emotional turmoil teetered dangerously on the edge. Emily, Derek said softly, finally breaking through my uncertainty. You matter more than anything. She matters, and trusting him? It could jeopardize everything. That I could see the worry etched into Derek's brow, and his sincerity wrapped around me like an embrace. But I was also aware of the yearning for Lucas' legacy to either be a light or a ruin. Lucas isn't just someone to push aside, I said, my voice wavering. What if he truly can save her? What if don't? Derek interrupted, urgency creeping back into his voice. You're not thinking straight. And as my heart pulsed with the desire to trust Lucas against the backdrop of Derek's fierce support, I felt an unexpected warmth brush against my arm. A nurse walked past, briefcase in hand, smile unassuming yet powerful. Excuse me, she said, are you Emily? There's been an update about your mother. My breath hitched, and suddenly, all thoughts of Lucas' wrist evaporating as I turned back toward her, frayed nerves morphing into focused anticipation. What is it? The nurse hesitated, glancing sideways to Lucas, who couldn't mask the desperate tension on his face. We've got the results of her latest tests back. No. Derek interjected, instinctively reaching for me. Emily, we can't let him. But before I could form a cohesive thought, the nurse continued. Your mother's condition remains critical, and we need to move forward rapidly with a decision. But there might be a chance for an experimental treatment option. Each word pulsed with weight, enveloping me in a cloak of confused hope and despair. The decision loomed. I could turn to Lucas for deeper insights or turn him away and rely solely on the staff at the hospital. As I stood on the brink, teetering between a past that still haunted me and a decision that could change everything, Lucas' voice murmured across the divide. Don't let fear hold you back. The two paths twisted and tangled around me, but I felt life pulling me one way, my mother's fragile health urging me forward. And as uncertainty gripped my heart, the world fell away. It was about to become a race against time, one that might demand more than I ever thought I could give. The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting sharp shadows against the sterile walls of the waiting room as I sat solidly between Derek and the nurse. The words echoed in my ears, a haunting mantra of opportunity and trepidation. An experimental treatment. My mother might have a chance. I clutched the armrest, sustaining the last thread of hope as if it were a lifeline in a turbulent ocean. Derek's grip remained firm on my arm, grounding me even as adrenaline coursed through my veins. Emily, this is a big decision. We need to discuss the risks. His voice was a cauldron of concern and love, but beneath that lay an undercurrent of possessiveness. He didn't want to lose me to the echoes of my past. Emily, Lucas interjected, his voice smooth yet urgent. You can't ignore the possibility that this treatment could save her life. Let me help you navigate through this. I met his eyes. Were they pleading or merely desperate? There was something both alluring and terrifying about the prospect of relying on Lucas. The familiar ache of old wounds flared, clashing against my need to save my mother. And how do I know what you're saying is true? I asked, keeping my voice steady, fighting the vulnerability seeping into my tone. Because you know me, Lucas replied sharply. You know I wouldn't play games with you when it comes to your mother's health. That he stepped closer, lowering his voice, but it still seemed to echo in the silence of the waiting room. I can connect you with the right doctor, someone who knows this treatment inside and out. I won't charge you. I just want to help. Why now? I pressed. Why should I trust you when you turned your back on everything before? Because I was an idiot, he admitted. And I see now what is important. I was so caught up in my own battles that I lost sight of yours. I won't fail you again. Derek shook his head, cutting through the tension like a sharp breath. Emily, listen to yourself. You're putting your trust in someone who hasn't proven they've changed. This he gestured between Lucas and me, frustration tightening his jaw. Could unravel everything. Or it could save my mother. I shot back, a sudden fire igniting inside me. I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down like the heaviness of the humid air before a storm. The nurse, sensing the escalating argument, interjected quietly, "Why don't we take a moment? We'll check in with the doctor and see if he's available to talk. No rush. Wait, what if it's too late?" I pressed, panic edging like ice into my veins. What if we don't act now and lose the opportunity? Just breathe, Emily, Derek coaxed, his eyes softening even as anxiety darted around us. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, trying to summon some clarity. But my heart screamed with confusion. The thought of my mother suffering, of her slipping further away, became a dark cloud of urgency, eclipsing everything else. "I need to know I'm doing what's right," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. "Let's go together," Lucas suggested, taking a step back, almost as if he were giving me space to breathe. "Just speak to the doctor. Get the facts straight. Then, you can decide." I turned to Derek, who traced a line between worry and determination on his face. "I don't think we can let Lucas into this, Emily. There's too much at stake." "But what if he's right?" I pleaded. "What if he can really help? I can't just ignore the possibility." "I cannot wait any longer. I need to act." Before Derek could respond, the nurse returned, her eyes brightening with an urgent glimmer. "The doctor can see you now. He's ready to discuss the treatment options." That I felt Derek's hand slip away, the warmth of his presence giving way to the chill of uncertainty. I glanced toward Lucas, who seemed momentarily frozen in time, as if wrestling with his own thoughts. I took a step forward in the nurse's direction, an automatic instinct to move toward answers, yet suddenly felt tethered, divided by the weight of my decision. "Emily," Lucas' voice broke through my inner storm. "Just know, whatever happens, he'll be here. If you choose to reach out, he'll support you, no matter what." Counting on Lucas felt like diving into uncertain waters. I could either embrace the chance he offered or retreat to the safety of what I knew with Derek. But as I chased the flickering hope for my mother, the stakes had never been higher. I turned to follow the nurse deeper into the heart of the hospital. A sharp noise echoed behind me, a clatter followed by hurried footsteps. I paused mid-stride, heart in my throat, as a frantic doctor rushed into the waiting area, wide-eyed, as if summoned by a thunderous realization. "Emily," he called out, urgency twisting his features, the air thickening with dread. "You need to come with me. There's been a development regarding your mother's condition." And in that moment, the precarious balance of choices shattered. My breath hitched, caught in the jaws of fear as uncertainty twisted my insides. The world around me blurred, leaving only the thundering of my heart as I faced the unraveled threads of my life, every path suddenly narrowing to a singular, breathtaking moment that could redefine everything. The doctor led me down the stark hallway. Sterile white walls and the scent of antiseptic enveloped us like a shroud. Each hurried step felt like a thunderous announcement of impending doom that echoed through the chambers of my heart. Derek was just behind me, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of the battle raging within me. "Emily, just take a deep breath," he murmured as we turned a corner. I wanted to find solace in his words, but the adrenaline clawing at my insides made it impossible to feel anything but cold terror. What could have happened this time? Was it really too late? Once we reached the room, the doctor paused, looking back at me with a blend of urgency and empathy etched on his face. "I must warn you," he said, voice steady but laced with an undeniable gravity. "Your mother has taken a turn. We need to act quickly to ensure she gets the best possible treatment." "What do you mean?" I gasped, panic choking my words. "She's been in and out of consciousness. The prognosis we discussed previously no longer applies. We believe that the experimental treatment may not be an option anymore if we don't intervene immediately." That a molten weight settled in my gut as the fear broadened into a vast chasm. "So what are you saying?" My voice trembled, quaking with the enormity of his words. "There's a chance the treatment could still work," the doctor continued, his grip on the clipboard tightening. "But her body can't hold out much longer without intervention. We need your consent to proceed with the standard course of treatment first. It could buy us the time we need to explore the experimental option further." I could feel Derek's presence shift. He stepped closer, his warmth surrounding me as he whispered, "We have to trust him. Emily. This is still a chance. But my eyes were glued to the doctor, who commanded a sense of urgency that gnawed viciously at my hope. I clutched the edge of my shirt, channels of fear coursing through me as I considered the implications of either decision. Emily, time is of the essence, he urged, his voice firmly anchored in the swirling chaos of my mind. If we wait too long, I can't guarantee anything. With every beat of my heart, I could nearly sense the seconds slipping away, the lashes of urgency whipping across my consciousness. What if I didn't act? What if I chose wrong? The thought that I could lose my mother was a spine-chilling ghost that clung to me, tightening its grip on my soul. That I understand, I managed to say, choking on my own fear. Let's do it. Whatever it takes, the doctor nodded, relief cutting through the unyielding tension. They'll have the paperwork prepared. We'll need you to sign suddenly. A bright flash of light filled the room. I turned to see Lucas standing in the open doorway. The startled look on his face shifted into one of determination, a spark igniting in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Emily, he called out, his voice cutting through the air like a lifeline. I came to find you. Are you okay? Before I could answer, Derek stepped in, the tension coiling tighter. What are you doing here, Lucas? This isn't the time. Come on, Derek. She's my friend too, Lucas countered, the warmth in his voice breaking over my frozen heart like a wave. I just heard what's going on. I wanted to make sure you both had the right information. Information? Derek snapped, his voice a cringe against the backdrop of barely controlled chaos. You've done enough damage already. Ignoring him, Lucas stepped forward, looking directly at me. I know this is overwhelming, and am not here to interfere. I just want you to know that there's still a chance if you want to explore the experimental treatment. There's an opportunity for a consultation, possibly tonight, that might expedite her recovery. What? The surprise burst from my lips before I could stop it. Hope flickered just out of reach, tantalizing in its potential. When? How do you know? I have contacts, people who can help. I just wanted to make sure you understood that you have options, he said softly, gazing into my eyes as if he wanted me to see the blossoming possibilities. Derek's voice dripped with disdain. And what does this mean for your mother's chance with the standard treatment? I'd have to discuss the details, but there's a possibility to integrate both approaches. Lucas held my gaze firmly, his sincerity at war with Derek's wariness. But you need to choose quickly. If you decide to go this route, we need to act now. Panic began to bubble again as the weight of all the paths flooded my system. I found myself caught between the comforting voice of Derek, who had always been my anchor, and the urgent thrust of Lucas, with his promise of hope springing from chaos. Two need to think, I stammered, glancing between the two men who represented such different futures. An urgent decision loomed over me, thick as a thundercloud. Just then, the doctor cleared his throat, drawing attention back to him. Emily, whichever path you choose, we need your decision about care for your mother within minutes if we're going to act. The countdown had begun. My instincts flared in a cacophony of fear and hope, each second echoing with possible futures dangling on a precipice. With trembling hands, I weighed my decisions, knowing that whatever I chose could irrevocably change everything for my mother, for me, for my heart. And then the doctor added, almost casually, also you should know that we found something unexpected in her recent tests. A piece of information that might change our approach entirely. The air charged with uncertainty, electrifying my skin as dread settled heavily in the pit of my stomach. What new revelation loomed just beyond my grasp? The path ahead twisted unnaturally, every decision leading me deeper into shadows lined with fragmented truths. The weight of the doctor's words hung like a suffocating fog, curling in around me as I tried to process what he had just said. A new revelation? What else could possibly go wrong? My heart raced, caught in the clutch of anxiety and desperation. I looked back at him, needing clarity but fearing what he would unveil. Doctor, please, what do you mean? I asked, my voice trembling, an echo of hope barely discernible beneath the tidal wave of foreboding. Derek's grip on my arm tightened, his tension palpable as he shifted beside me. The doctor regarded me somberly, pausing to ensure he had my full attention. During her last examination, we discovered an unexpected complication, a latent illness we hadn't accounted for, a rare autoimmune disorder that may be affecting her ability to respond to treatment as we thought. Its presence may complicate both standard and experimental approaches. Every word hit me like a physical blow, unraveling the fragile threads that held my composure. The thought of my mother enduring yet another battle, one that could potentially overshadow everything we had just fought for, felt like standing at the edge of the world, teetering towards the abyss. Derek's expression grew dark, a mix of anger and despair reflected in his gaze. "Why didn't we catch this sooner?" he muttered, frustration fueling his tone. "Some conditions can present subtly," the doctor replied, his voice steady but tinged with fatigue. "Even the best evaluations can miss something, especially with overlapping symptoms. Regardless, we need to move quickly. It's crucial that you make a decision." Lucas stepped closer, his eyes calculating, yet softened with an earnestness I found refreshing amidst the turmoil. "Emily, this changes things, but don't let it take away your options. If we can act fast, there's still a chance to address both issues." That I absorbed his words, desperate and latching onto fragments of hope amidst the rising tide of dread. Maybe there was a way, still, to combine the best of both worlds. But my heart wasn't just beating for myself, it was thrumming dangerously for my mother. I thought of her, fragile but fierce, the woman whose laughter once filled our home and whose warmth had been replaced by the chill of hospital rooms, sterile light, and whispered prayers. "That I don't want to lose her." I finally spoke, the raw vulnerability clawing its way to the surface. "Then we need to act," Lucas urged gently, his voice grounding me for a moment amid the chaotic whirlwind of fears. "Whatever decision you make, it'll help. I know people who can expedite this process. Just say the word." All my fighting spirit flooded back with the prospect of kindness from an unexpected place, warming my brittle heart. But the tension in the space thickened again. Derek's protectiveness felt like an impenetrable wall at my side. "Emily," Derek interjected urgently, "I know you care about Lucas' input, but we have to consider the risks here. You don't know what you're getting into." "But I can't just stand by," and I retorted, frustration bubbling over. "These are my mother's life decisions, and I need to weigh every option. You can't make that choice for me." Derek's face set in resolute determination, as if he believed silence was the answer to outlast the storm brewing around us. My breath slowed as I realized that the gulf widening between us felt less like a protective instinct and more like an alienation of my spirit. Lucas' expression softened, a flicker of understanding dancing in his gaze as he took another step forward. "Emily, I know this is immensely difficult. Just remember how vital your voice is in this. Your mother would want you to fight for her. He'll support whatever you think is right." For a brief moment, I could see my truth unfold in the fire of his eyes. The shadows that clung to my heart began to unfurl slightly, as if just the act of choosing could potentially reclaim some sense of agency in all this chaos. I could feel my pulse quicken, the flame of my determination igniting once more. Yet, before I could articulate my burgeoning resolve, the doctor, too, forced the air from my lungs with his next proclamation. "Emily, one more thing. This new information may require the involvement of specialists who are unconventional. They may not follow the typical medical protocols we're used to." I swallowed hard, apprehension creeping back in. "Unconventional how?" "There are doctors who explore alternative therapies. Some patients find these routes unorthodox, even questionable, but in cases like your mother's, they can yield results others may miss," he explained. Just as the implication of his words settled, the nurse who had been silently observing stepped in, her eyes flitting from the doctor to me, then reluctantly to Derek before speaking. "I just wanted to say that sometimes, kindness comes in forms we least expect. Perhaps trust could be a guide." Her statement hung softly in the air, a gentle but persistent push that seemed to breathe life into the tension swirling between us. I suddenly felt the need to take control, empowered by this ripple of unexpected kindness in a time when everything felt insurmountable. "That I want to explore all the options available to my mother, even if they are unconventional," I declared, finding my voice stronger as the words spilled out. "If there's a chance, however small, I have to fight for her. We can't hold back." As I spoke, I could feel the eyes of both men shift. Lucas' nod was subtle yet expressive, while Derek remained a rigid silhouette beside me. But the warmth of the nurse's encouragement lingered, emboldening my spirit. Just then, a soft alarm broke the silence, pulling our attention back to the doctor, who quickly glanced at his watch. We need to make a decision now, Emily. What will it be? Tension crackled in the room, its weight almost unbearable, and I could feel my heart racing at the precipice of risk and hope. A momentary thought, had I lost my chance entirely? With trembling resolve, I took a deep breath, knowing that I could no longer allow fear to guide me. But an unexpected nagging in my gut made me hesitate, just long enough to remember that with resolution, secrets often lurked. The weight of all the choices began to press down harder as I prepared to declare the path ahead, feeling the convergence of lives and love around me that bloomed into something wild and exhilarating. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, Derek's phone buzzed violently in his pocket, and he fished it out with urgency. He glanced at the screen, his face draining of color. "What is it?" I asked, sudden dread shielding my breath. With trembling hands, he read the message before looking at me with wild eyes. "Emily, it's about your mother's records. It's worse than we thought. We might need to hurry." A surge of panic washed over me, threatening to disintegrate the fragile control I had managed to piece together amidst the chaos. The weight of Derek's words crashed like thunder in the stillness of the room, shaking me to my core as everything I thought I understood morphed into shadows of doubt and fear. "Worse?" I echoed, my voice trembling as I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. "What do you mean?" Derek's face twisted with concern, and I could see his mind racing as he contemplated how to articulate what was unfolding. "They found discrepancies in your mother's medical files. They think she might have been misdiagnosed all along. The treatments we have been discussing, they may not even be viable anymore." Misdiagnosed? A sense of despair clawed at my throat, suffocating the breath from my lungs. How can that be? My heart raced, each thud resonating with the painful reverberation of fear that echoed through the sterile walls. "I am sorry. I don't know the details. It's just I need to go speak to the head physician. It's critical." His urgency pulled at my heart, making me acutely aware of how fragile this moment was, the threads of possibility I had dared to grasp flailing in the wind. Derek moved toward the exit, each step tremulous and heavy. I wanted to call him back, but the knot in my throat throbbed, leaving me paralyzed, teetering on the brink of despair. Just then, Lucas took a step forward, bridging the widening chasm between Derek and me. "Emily, you don't have to face this alone. Let me help. You need someone to fight for your mom, someone who can advocate for you." His words pierced through my swirling thoughts, but they felt both like a salvation and a betrayal. "You've made mistakes in the past, Lucas. How can I trust you now?" I replied, wariness creeping back into my heart, twisting tightly as anger surged. I fought against the longing to believe that anyone could truly help me. It felt like a betrayal to my mother and to myself that I know I've made mistakes, he replied, sincerity lining his tone, "But I've changed. I want to help you navigate this, whatever it takes. Just give me the chance." The frailty of hope lingered in the air, challenging the harsh reality that threatened to shatter not just my world, but my remaining resolve. "Trust is not something I can extend lightly, Lucas," I reiterated, my voice trembling. But conflicting emotions fluttered within my chest. "Me mother," the sweet laughter echoing in my memories, hovered in the corner of my mind, pushing me closer to the brink of desperation. Just then, the nurse returned, her presence steadying as she moved towards me with warmth and gentleness, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. "Emily, the doctor is ready to update you on your mother's condition. With what you just heard, you need all the information you can gather." Despite the confusion and fear swirling like a whirlpool within me, the nurse's steady demeanor provided a flicker of comfort. "You'll need to act quickly," she reminded me gently. "Choose the path that feels right for you." I shared a fleeting glance with Lucas. I saw a ripple of understanding pass between us, a silent communion of flawed history and mutual purpose. I could feel the precipice of despair looming, but hope still flickered somewhere deep within. "What if we explore both options?" I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper as my heart thudded loudly beneath my skin, grazing the wall of fear as terror threatened to undo me once more. "What if we consider the experimental treatment while still maintaining the standard protocol?" Derek returned, breathless, his face etched with worry. "Emily," he started, uncertainty clouding the strength in his voice. But there, behind that uncertainty, I sensed the same fierce determination that had become my lifeline throughout this storm. If there's a chance, I continued, an urgency illuminating my heart as I explained my proposition. We can combine both approaches and see what might work just until we know more. Emily, I don't think Derek interjected, but Lucas swiftly moved in, echoing my yearning. You're right. Why not? Hedge your bets? You won't know until you explore every avenue. There is power in having a choice. Derek grunted in frustration, and I could see the conflict tempest within him. He didn't want to lose me to Lucas' enticement, but he also understood the weight of my mother's fate. But it's such a gamble, Emily. We don't have any guarantees. What if we end up with nothing? Then at least we tried, I said with quiet confidence, allowing the storm brewing within me to subside as I looked to the nurse, and then to Lucas, determination flooding my voice as all insecurities seemed to crumble before me. But I can't let my mother slip away without doing everything I can. I won't let fear define success. The room tensed, and in that moment of unexpected honesty and unyielding desire to protect, the weight of doubt slowly began to lift. I could see it in Derek's eyes, though frustration ebbed through his veins. Behind it flickered a begrudging respect. His barriers crumbled, allowing the burgeoning light of hope to seep through. All right, he finally relented, his voice shaking. If that's what you really want, Emily, they'll stand beside you. Together, we'll fight. I just need you to promise me that you'll keep communicating with me every step of the way, no matter what. Always, I nodded, grateful for his support, feeling the fabric of my courage weave tighter around us. Now, let's go check on your mother, the nurse encouraged softly, shifting the atmosphere gently toward purpose. As I stepped forward, Lucas moved alongside me, breathing life into the desperation that had haunted our shared history. I'm here, he whispered, and for an unguarded moment, I felt the warmth of old connections sparking anew. Together, we surged onward through the corridors, each pulse echoing with infinite paths still ahead. I could feel the collective heartbeat of possibilities surge within me, tilting dangerously toward the unknown. The moment felt monumental. It was in the space between choices that clarity often revealed itself. The doctor stood waiting just outside the door, concern etched into every line of his face. Emily, he began, and every fiber in my body leaned toward any hint of hope emanating from him. We've made some discoveries regarding your mother's condition that could affect our approach to treatment. Are you ready to hear? With a deep breath, catching the gaze of both men who had guarded my path thus far, I nodded. Together, I whispered, sealing the open willingness to embrace every twist, turn, and battle that lay ahead, one for my mother, but also one for myself. And as the door swung wide open, a million uncertainties collided, creating a fragile tapestry of hope and possibility that shimmered brilliantly against the shadows, ready to lead me toward a future where healing might just bloom again. I held tightly on to that flicker of possibility, breathing deeply as the weight on my heart began to transform into something soft and radiant. In that moment, I didn't just step into the waiting room of a hospital. I stepped into the embrace of something more profound, the undeniable power of hope and the firm belief that love, however complicated, would lead us back to each other when it mattered most. With each heartbeat, with every whisper of possibilities, I felt alive once more, ready for the fight ahead. And as I stood there in that pivotal space, the ground shifted beneath my feet while life pushed me forward, carving out the path to healing in a world filled with light and shadow. But at that moment, I knew everything was about to change. I simply had to trust the journey.